All right, so a couple of things that I want to talk about today on the Carl Jackson Show podcast is world leaders are urging the UN to boot Russia from the Human Rights and Security Councils. I'm going to tell you why America, sadly, under the leadership of Biden, looks like hypocrites when it comes to this issue. Also, something weird is happening. Biden wants more oil from Canada. Wait a minute. You X the Keystone XL Pipeline. We're going to talk about that. And lastly, I want to go into a deep dive on this particular subject. Representative Matt Gaetz, right here in Florida, is offered up some solutions on how to tame the mouse. The mouse as in Disney World. We're going to get into that next on the Carl Jackson Show podcast.
Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, so this today from the headlines, the world leaders urge UN to boot Russia from the Human Rights and Security Councils. This according to the tip sheet, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, who happens to be the ambassador to the UN. Did you guys see her, by the way? I mean, just so boring. She told reporters in Romania today that she would press for Russia's suspension from the global human rights body over the massacre. All right, so basically what we're seeing, and listen, there's a legitimate gripe for those of you that have not seen the pictures of what's been happening in parts of Ukraine, particularly Bucha, where they are finding bodies in mass graves of dead Ukrainian civilians, some tied with their hands behind their backs, that have been shot, in some cases tortured, raped, so on, etc. President Volodymyr Zelensky has literally shown video and pictures of people with their throats slit, limbs cut off. It's been absolutely disgusting. So we should be morally outraged. The problem that I have with the Biden administration is the fact, and quite frankly, the entire woke left in this country, is that they will all work together to condemn certain actions by certain people or countries if it's politically expedient, but it's just virtue signaling. I mean, because we can always go back to China, right? These people are completely, they kiss Xi Jinping's booty. A lot of corporate America on the left, a lot of governmental entities, they love kissing Xi Jinping's booty. China is still the largest threat, and listen, they enslave Uyghurs. Now, and it isn't just Uyghur Muslims. The way that they treat their citizens. It is a full surveillance state, and people come up missing if they don't obey the dictates of the Chinese government. And this is where we're moving. We're moving closer and closer to that type of society if we're not careful and if we don't fight back, which is why I love that people are starting to step up and fight back. Like the Elon Musk. Listen, I wasn't a big fan of Elon Musk, but it's obvious that this guy is a patriot. It's obvious that this guy is a Renaissance man, and I can appreciate how God will use anybody to bring about freedom. And this guy buying into Twitter and now placing himself on the board, it's phenomenal. It's a way to fight back. Now, a lot of changes haven't been made as of yet. I think he can only go as high as 14.9% of the stock he could own of Twitter right now. I think he owns 9.5%. So we'll see where this goes. But I think anyone stepping in to fill those shoes and to fight back against the left, I think it's going to make an impact. I don't think it's going to be as quick as conservatives would like to believe. All right, I know conservatives are already like, oh my God, why isn't Trump back on Twitter and all of this type of stuff, guys? It just happened this week. All right, slow your roll. Let's see what happens. Let's see what transpires over the next couple of weeks. Honestly, probably even over the next month. See how things start shaking out at Twitter. But this is a good step. I think another good step is fighting back against woke corporations like Disney. There's been a lot. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Because I want to get you, I want to share with you some of the responses of people that are not necessarily happy. Some people are happy about Governor DeSantis' take on Disney. Now, mind you, nothing has been done as of yet, but Matt Gaetz offers up some solutions that I want to get into, including municipal dissolution, copyright expiration, and combined reporting. These are some of the ways that you can tame the mouse. And, I know a lot of people are upset and bothered with that. Here's one response from a gentleman that replied to this online at Twitter. He says, in other words, responding to Matt Gaetz wanting to strip Disney of its power or special privileges. He says, in other words, do you want to use the power of the government to hurt someone because of their political speech? I think there may be a law against that. And this guy totally doesn't get it. I understand the argument. That seems like that would be the commonsensical argument. But here's what's happening with Disney. And then I want to get into the hypocrisy, because the Democrat Party are just a bunch of hypocrites. I want to get into this situation with Biden now asking Canada for oil when you destroyed the Keystone XL Pipeline. Just a complete and utter moron. The left-wing policies just don't work. But to go back to Disney real quickly here, and then I'll expand on Disney a little more and get into some of these things. I'm just learning what these things are. I was doing some research to find out myself what some of these things are that Matt Gaetz mentioned, besides the copyright expiration, which it's kind of self-explanatory here. But just going back to this guy's comment on Twitter about Disney, he says, you want to hurt someone because of their political speech. I think there may be a law. There may be a law against that. Well, the good news is Republicans run the legislature, and it's not hurting someone because of their political speech. Here's what people don't understand about Disney, and I explained this the other day. I want you to imagine the state of Florida. All right, so the state of Florida has a governing body, right? The state of Florida, it's weird shape, whatever, has a governing body. We have a state legislature. We have a governor, all that kind of stuff, just like every other state. So within the state of Florida, Disney has a carve out where they're essentially they're their own state. They're their own government. They're their own city, or whatever, maybe city, not a state. But they're not ruled by anyone but Disney. No other company in the entire United States has that type of special privilege. No one, just Disney. This is special. It isn't about this is about eliminating extra rights so that Disney is on an equal playing ground with other amusement parks and businesses like that. Have you noticed? You don't see. These companies practice their own little woke things right here in Florida, SeaWorld, Universal Studios. So, all of them are a little woke. But they don't have the type of power and pull that Disney has with the legislators here, simply because they don't have these special carve-outs. They don't have these special privileges. Disney has special privileges that no one else has. They have an unfair advantage. And honestly, the law should be abolished. I didn't realize how far this went before Governor Ron DeSantis mentioned it, quite frankly. And you look into this and it's just insane. So we will get into this shortly. But first, before I dive deeper into that, let me just say this real quick, or mention this real quick. I want to go back to the tip sheet. So Biden wants more oil from Canada, but now a new pipeline to bring it. So what an idiot. Biden administration officials are seeking ways to boost oil imports from Canada. People familiar with the situation say, but with one big caveat, they don't want to resurrect the Keystone XL Pipeline that President Biden effectively killed on his first day in office. Longer term, Canadian officials and oil industry analysts say expanding the existing Keystone Pipeline network would offer a bigger, more efficient solution. The XL expansion was to carry 830,000 barrels a day of Canadian crude from Alberta to Nebraska, where the pipeline would meet up with the existing Keystone Pipeline and then onto refineries on the U.S. and Gulf Coast. So the Biden administration don't want to resurrect the Keystone XL Pipeline. Why do you think that's the case? Because if they do so, it proves that they were complete and utter morons for dissolving it in the first place, and they don't want to say, "Hey, Trump was right." So they're willing to allow you to suffer, right? Because they didn't want Trump to be right. And now they want, this is a complete CYA move, because here this moron is releasing 1 million barrels of oil per day from the strategic oil reserve. And that is meant strictly for national emergencies. So God forbid something happens to us with the United States where we're attacked and we need that oil to be in the reserve. And this idiot is taking it out 1 million barrels a day for 6 months leading up to the election. What a coinky-dink. All of the left's policies are backfiring on them. And I want to get into this live because Jen Psaki, who's going on to MSNBC, she lies on behalf of the administration. I want to go back to this article, and I've referenced this many a times because it's just a quick from the Washington Times. Hat tip to them, just to break down the lies of the Biden administration when they are pummeling these oil and energy, these gas, these energy CEOs, these oil and gas company CEOs. They're just completely lying. Oh, so here's the summary. Just to reiterate this, I've mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning it again, given the news that now the Biden administration is desperate for oil. By the way. This is just did you guys see that video? Maybe, Gabe, we have to just show that video for the fun of it. It doesn't even tie into this podcast, but I just want everybody to see it. I didn't get to see the video until last night, and I watched it on Tucker Carlson's program of Joe Biden and Barack Obama in the White House. Barack Obama, just fanfare, right? People inside of the White House, even Kamala Harris. I mean, you could look at, everybody was all excited to see Barack Obama. And you could, listen, you got to give it to Barack Obama. I can't stand his policies. I think he's a hypocrite. I think he's a complete and utter fraud. But that guy has the it factor. That guy knows how to give a speech, read from a teleprompter, whatever. He has the it factor. He knows how to work a room. And you see Biden coming in behind him, touching his shoulder, grabbing his shoulder. Hey, Barack, trying to get his attention. Biden is a shell of himself. This guy is an outsider. The president of the United States is an outsider, it appears, if you see this video, in his own White House. And everybody's clamoring, trying to get Barack Obama's attention. And they're just ignoring Joe Biden. I think that video says a lot. But let me get back to this. All right, that was an attention deficit disorder moment. All right, so let me get back to this video or this column from the Washington Times. Here's the summary. The Biden administration has considerably slowed its approval of new oil and natural gas drilling leases on public lands. This despite the fact that they were facing pressure to more aggressively urge fossil fuel companies to increase their population, to increase their production in the face of high domestic energy. So here are some of the stats that you need to be aware of when Jen Psaki and Biden are saying, hey, listen, these companies, these fossil fuel companies, these oil and gas companies, they have these leases. They're just choosing not to drill, and we're going to punish them for not drilling on federal land. This is all political theater because they are scared that they are going to be devastated in November of this year, and we got to keep the pedal to the metal. Because I am concerned about election integrity, and I'm concerned that a lot of our weak legislators, Republican legislators that exist around the country, may not have the type of leader like we have in Florida, like Governor Ron Desantis, that are poking them and prodding them to make sure that there are secure measures put in place for the November 2020 election and the elections going forward. Hopefully they're getting lawyers out now, taking a look at this type of stuff. like they didn't do, sadly, in 2020. All right, so now here are some of the stats that I want you to hear regarding oil and why the Democrats are such hypocrites when it comes to this stuff. They're scared about the world catching on fire with man-made global warming, but it's election season, so let's talk to Canada. Let's beg Canada to drill. Oh, let's continue buying oil from Russia because we need fossil fuels. These people are just jackasses. All right. The number of approvals in recent months, literally, I mean, they're Democrats. All right. So the number of approvals in recent months has been less than, this is when I talk about approvals, this is the number of leases that were approved on federal land. So these companies can drill on private land, but you have to understand not every well will be good. And plus they have to, get loans and capital from some of these banks that are that hate these fossil fuel companies that may not lend to them. They have to have equipment, materials, steel, all this stuff to build the pipelines that they need. So it's not just about, hey, I got a land lease here. There's going to be plenty of oil here. First off, they have to drill. They have to dig. They don't know how much oil they're going to find in any given with any given land permit, and they don't know how much material they might need. Right. So a lot of things go into play about drilling, and you have to consider all of these things. So here are the number of approvals in recent months that have been given to these oil or fossil fuel companies, if you will, from the Biden administration. The number of approvals in recent months has been less than half of what they were at their peak around the time President Biden took office. Let me repeat that. The number of approval in recent months has been less than half of what they were at their peak around the time President Biden took office. Going from as many as 643 in April of 2021 to as few as 95 in January of this year. This is according to the Bureau of Land Management. All right. So they went from 643 federal leases in April of 2021, just a couple of months after President-elect Biden was placed into the White House. We're down to as few as 95. This is according to the Bureau of Land Management. So essentially on federal lands, that's a decrease or a reduction of 85% of land leases, 85% of land leases in a very short period of time. In a very short period of time, in less than 1 year. It's insane. All right, so here's the trick. And again, you're seeing a reduction of 85% of fewer, as a result of the Biden administration, land leases that have been handed out to fossil fuel companies on federal property. So the Biden administration is just lying. Here's the trick. All right, the article goes on to say, though Mr. Biden's administration gave the green light to more oil and gas drilling wells in his first year than Trump did, and this is the argument that you'll hear Psaki make from the from the podium. And I still don't know if you pronounce her name Psaki or Saki, did in his first year. So it's no disrespect. I'm not trying to. I seriously don't know. I hear Saki most often, so that's what I say. But I've heard others say it's Psaki. So anyway, so that's what the Biden administration will argue. Hey, listen, we greenlit, more oil and gas drilling wells in our first year, according to Biden, than Trump did in his first year. And now that's true, but here's what you have to consider. Trump was fighting to deregulate the regulations and the burdensome regulations that were already placed on these oil companies from the Obama administration. He had to roll that stuff back with a legislature, sadly, led by Paul Ryan, that was just weak and feckless. Right. So they had a lot of work to do in order to get things happening. The steep decline. So let me just say this again. Biden's administration gave the green light to more oil and gas drilling wells in his first year than Trump did in his first year. Again, that's the argument. I explained that. The steep decline last summer came at a time when inflation began exacerbating energy costs and causing prices at the pump to increase. So these people flooded the zone with more money in the market. The American Rescue Plan is American death plan, essentially. And on top of that, they end all of these oil leases, these federal oil leases with the fossil fuel companies, and voila, right? And in addition, obviously, we're still dealing with COVID. So inflation just skyrocketed. So the Biden administration, there's no one to blame except for them. Now Biden is seeming desperate again, asking Canada to drill and to create a new pipeline, but they don't want to do the Keystone XL pipeline. God forbid Trump is right. God forbid we're wrong. So we're just going to make the people suffer. And here's the bottom line too. These pipelines, they don't just happen overnight. Even the Keystone XL pipeline, right? In order to restore that, in order to in order to bring that back to line where they're pumping oil and gas through that pipeline, it's going to take 8 to 9 months. You know why? Because the Biden administration sold all of the equipment and the metal, the piping, all that kind of stuff associated with it for 1/3 of the price, by the way. This is how much these people are just ignoramuses. So here's the lie from the White House, or purposeful distortion that you often hear. Again, the leading argument from the White House has been that companies sit on some 9,000 unused oil and natural gas leases. But again, a few of those leases ultimately end up being viable. A lot of these people, let's just read from Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm told energy industry analysts, executives, government officials, and financial leaders at the conference Cera Week, CERA, by S&P Global that the U.S. was on a, quote, war footing that called for an increase in, quote, short-term supply, where we can right now to stabilize the market and minimize harm to American families, end quote. And the average cost of regular gallon of gas, you guys know, has skyrocketed. So analysts have long warned about these that prices would rise exponentially due to the global demand that's outpacing supply coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. And you have all of these woke countries in Europe that are not energy independent. And so we're shipping oil there, which, I mean, it's just totally insane. But the Biden administration and the left are looking like complete idiots, and they're looking like complete fools. And what they wanted to do, they wanted the Green New Deal. And it is their goal to put the pedal to the metal, to put their foot on our necks to get the Green New Deal at any cost, even at the cost of your personal finances. Even at the cost of destroying these energy companies. By the way, for all of you wannabes that man-made global warming wannabes that hate the fossil fuel companies, you need to get rid of your cell phones, and you need to just walk around this world butt naked and stop driving cars, even electric cars. Everything you own virtually is made out of fossil fuel, some type of fossil fuel. Everything. Electric cars, that is why my pet peeve against electric cars, fine, if you want to own one, own one. Don't sit here and tell me that they're better for the environment when they do more damage to the environment than a regular car with the internal combustible engine in their production phase than almost the life of the entire life of a car with an internal combustible engine, just on their production phase. Now, once these cars are up and running, they run clean, but they need electricity powered by coal. And then you have to get rid of the battery. I challenge you to go look at and search for what mining fields look like for lithium, cobalt, and all of these things. Not to mention child labor is involved in these things. So it's just hypocritical. I hate the virtue signaling all around. Okay, so here's what I really wanted to get to. I didn't intend to stay that long on that particular subject. I wanted to go into a deep dive on this issue with the Florida legislature. And Matt Gaetz offering up solutions of how to curtail the woke Disney. And again, this is something that conservatives really have to get used to. I know we are used to, hey, we're for corporations, and so listen, I'm for U.S. corporations that are for America and that are for the little guy. Disney is not one of these corporations. Disney has anti-American values. All right. I'm sorry, conservatives. I know this is a hard pill to swallow, but we need to start looking at this stuff in a different light, and we need to start coming to solutions. I don't want to punish any American company that wants to remain an American company, that wants to abide by American laws. You start shipping jobs overseas, and then, especially in dictatorial nations or nations that are run by despots like China and Xi Jinping, I'm sorry, I don't have love for you. You know, the Disney in Shanghai, it doesn't operate like the Disney out here. They're not woke out there. In Disney in Shanghai, they know that there are only two sexes, male and female. They understand that, and they act like it, because when you go there, you get to see princesses and you get to see princes. And that's not ever going to change. So while Disney operates like they probably should operate in Shanghai, they go woke here. And then they get special privileges that no other company gets. I'm sorry, no company should have that type of monopoly in the United States of America. Big tech, the same. That's why I feel like we need to bust them up. These people are anti-American. They are trampling over the Constitution. This big tech I'm talking about, rendering the First Amendment mute. I'm sorry. We have to start thinking differently in order to get these companies back where they abide by the rule of law and the Constitution. Disney does not deserve special privileges. This is what people don't understand. Disney is a state operating within a state. They run everything by themselves. Essentially, the CEO of Disney is a governor of Disney. That's essentially what it is. They make their own regulations. No one else, millions of people in Florida, no one else gets those privileges. Disney does. Hat tip to BizPack Review. U.S. Congressman Matt Gaetz put his full support behind rumblings that the Florida legislature is angling to repeal special privileges Disney has enjoyed since the late 1960s in light of Mickey Mouse's parent company vowing to work to repeal the Parental Rights in Education Act. I kind of want this story to go away, but it can't. I'm almost tired of reporting on it, but the truth is it is so important because it's indicative of what's happening in the culture and how these woke corporations are teaming up with the woke left and the Democratic Party to crush you and I. To crush our, we're not allowed to think. We're not allowed to speak out or will be punished. And corporations have this power. They're not given that power under the Constitution. Give me a freaking break. It's insane. So they're going mad over the parental rights bill because Disney wants to be able to continue to groom your children. So they're calling it the Don't Say Gay bill to get gays all riled up about the bill when they don't care about that. They just want to look good and they want to virtue signal and they want to appease the radical left, the small vocal minority of Disney employees and the radical leftists that will call them out. Here's what Matt Gaetz says. Republican Congress's Matt Gaetz says, all right, there are things that Disney that can scare Disney. Municipal dissolution, copyright expiration, combined reporting. Gaetz wrote about this on Twitter, and he says, I'm the former finance and tax chairman of the Florida House, and I know of what I speak. DMs open for Florida legislators, close quote. I'll tell you how to trap this rodent, he added, close quote. His post included a link to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' recent comments condemning the woke ideology being pushed at Disney and explaining why the legislature is considering repealing what's called the 1967 Reedy Creek Improvement Act, which essentially allows Disney to operate, listen to this, its own city and put its own regulations on virtually everything, including building codes. Listen to this. Building codes, fire department services, electricity, roads, and water. All right, even if you build a house or are involved, or if you're involved in remodeling a house, you have to get all of these permits to be able to make changes or upgrades to your home, right? Disney doesn't have to do any of that. They're their own government. SeaWorld isn't their own government. Universal Studios isn't their own government. Gatorland out here isn't their own government. Whatever other Legoland. None of these people are their own. None of these corporations are their own government. Disney is the only one that has that privilege because they were the first. And this is what Walt Disney wanted in order to bring more people to Florida. This is the power that he wanted. And at that time, okay, fine and swell. They wanted to grow Florida. They wanted more people attracted to Florida. But now, I'm sorry, it's become a monopoly, and this thing should be null and void. I mean, the fact, again, I didn't realize that it went this deep. It can operate its own or put its own regulations in place on everything, including building codes, department services, electricity, roads, and water. Any of these other companies like Disney and amusement parks, oh, we got to get an inspection from the county. We got to get an inspection from the city. Oh, no, not Disney. They've got they're their own entity. All right, so Matt Gaetz goes on to say they have gotten incredible treatment from the Florida legislature and are treated on a pedestal. This one corporation is treated differently than anybody else. Actually, that's what Desantis said. That is not something I've ever supported in the legislature. You see a move to reevaluate the special privileges. They get extra rights. It's not equal rights. We want to cut Disney down to size where they have equal rights. They're on an equal playing field with the rest of the corporations inside, not just inside of Florida, frankly, but inside of the United States. And then there's a representative, Spencer Roach, spoke out on social media in support of repealing it. Here's what he had to say. Yesterday was the second meeting in a week with fellow legislators to discuss a repeal of the 1967 Reedy Creek Improvement Act, which allows Disney to act as its own government. If Disney wants to embrace woke ideology, it seems fitting that they should be regulated by Orange County. So a lot of people are saying, again, just like that tweet that I read earlier, okay, so basically you're crushing a business because, and I'm paraphrasing, but you're crushing a business because they have a different political worldview. No, what we're doing is bringing a business back down to size where they have the same protections and privileges that everyone else has. So everyone has equal rights, and Disney no longer has extra rights. It's really as simple as that. Now, let's take a look at some of these solutions that Matt Gaetz offered, because, again, I didn't really understand some of these things. So I pulled them up. If you'll bear with me for just a second. One of the things that he mentioned was municipal dissolution. So municipal dissolution means the termination of the existence of a city or borough government before making a decision to begin work on dissolution. A lot of thought should be given to researching, according to this commerce.alaska.gov. That's where it popped up. Before making a decision to begin work on dissolution, a lot of thought should be given to researching and planning the process and what will happen afterward regarding assets, liabilities, and services. The dissolution process is a set chain of events which must be followed in order to ensure a successful dissolution. So basically, we're going to dissolve their municipal power. I mean, what has to be determined? Okay, so now Orange County Orange County, Florida is where Disney resides. Okay, so who's going to be in control? Who's going to oversee this? Who's going to oversee this? Disney was allowed to oversee this, but that's being dissolved. Who's going to oversee this now? So there's going to be a termination of the existence of that city. Right? Disney will no longer be a city. It'll just be a corporation. So they'll be subject to municipal dissolution. Another thing is copyright expiration. And that seems, self-explanatory, right? I think copyright laws go as long as 70 years, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So this is from copyright.gov. The term of a copyright for a particular work depends on several factors, including whether it has been published and, if so, the date of first publication. As a general rule, for works created after January 1, 1978, copyright protection lasts for the life of the author plus an additional 70 years. Disney doesn't fall under that. This was before 1978. All right? So Disney has been getting these special privileges based upon this, what is it called again? The 1967 Reedy Creek Improvement Act. So this law, this copyright law, I guess, was amended in 1978, a full 11 years after Disney got their special privileges. So Disney they make a lot of money based upon copyright. All right, so so this is something that has to be reevaluated. Copyright expiration, maybe. Okay, so you create this character, and then after so many years, people can create a character similar to yours. But it's no longer a given for Disney, and I think this is I think this is smart. Another thing that Matt Gaetz mentions is he mentions combined reporting. And basically, what Disney is allowed to do, I think I get the gist of this one. What Disney is allowed to do is all of their parks, all of their affiliates, all of their associates are combined for accounting purposes under this entire, under Disney. All right, so you've got Municipal Dissolution, you've got Magic Kingdom in one area. You've got, I don't know, all the parks. I don't go to Disney enough, but Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, whatever else they have out at Disney. All right, so now they have to report these things separately. It's a little more, it's a little more work. No more of this combined reporting. They have to report actions and account for actions, finances, and all separately. So it's no longer Disney, it's Magic Kingdom. I mean, it's owned by Disney, but it's Magic Kingdom. It's Animal Kingdom. It's whatever else I'm Epcot. I'm trying to think of all the parks they have out there. They have a water park. All of these things. All right. So now report everything separately. And they also, these people have their own fire department. They have their own police department. They have everything. Everything should be reported. They get to keep things in-house right now. No. So these are good solutions, in my opinion. Good starts: municipal dissolution, copyright expiration, combined reporting. Get rid of combined reporting. These people have to be accountable for each park on an individual basis. Each and every park will get its own scrutiny. Each and every Disney operation will be scrutinized by local governments. Good. That's what you call equal rights under the law. All right, guys. Listen, I hope this has been informative. If it has been, please do me a favor, subscribe. Go to, you can also check out my website, carljacksonshow.com, where we place the podcast up daily. But also Salem Podcast Network is one of the best places you can go, obviously, to subscribe. Carl Jackson Show podcast there. Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble. I have a couple of missions that I'm working on. That is I want to end fake racism and this ideology, politics of identity politics in America. I want to restore Judeo-Christian values in America first and foremost. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. It just means that our system is freaking phenomenal and we should stick to it. And I believe that our system was inspired by God. It is the best system in the world, and the left is trying to take that away from us. So I think that's something that we have to fight for. And listen, I want to fight for free market capitalism because I believe that it helps every American. I believe that it helps, in particular, the working class, the middleman, the middle class, if you will. I think, people can rise out of poverty and make it into the middle class. People can make it into the middle class, invest, grow business, do whatever you want. You can make it into the upper class. So we want to strengthen the middle class. We want to, I think we can do that by embracing and uplifting capitalism. So if you want to help me in that fight, restoring the Judeo-Christian value system, ending this fake racism and identity politics in America, and listen, fighting for capitalism as opposed to socialism. I'm going to help you do that. I will be a mouthpiece for you. So please subscribe. Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, anywhere you can find podcasts, subscribe and share. Until next time, guys, don't grow weary doing good, and God bless you.